Welcome again to Applied Investments. We're going to review learning how to learn today. Just real quickly, again, this is Dr. Ron Rhoades, also known as Professor Bear. All right. So what are we going to cover? Basically, how do you form long-term memory so that you don't forget everything after the semester? What we're learning in this class is very practical in terms of your success in life, your financial success in life. And I want you to make sure that you remember these things for a long time, decades even. But also learning how to learn, the science of learning has evolved a lot. And we also know how to learn more efficiently. In other words, using less time. And the methods that we are covering today include spaced interval learning, retrieval practice, interleaving during study sessions, why sleep is so important to learning and to health generally, and then just another topic to cover, why expand your comfort zone. So just a little poll, just think to yourself here, all right, if you were in a room of a lot of people and all students of your age, and you are asked this question, are you a below average driver, an average driver, or an above average driver? What would your response be? Just think to yourself real quick. Yeah. What we find is that when people answer that question, you would expect that, kind of a normal bell curve would be, hey, half are below average and half are above average, and then some are average, But what we find is that most people say that they are above average. And that's something called the overconfidence bias. So if I were to ask you a different question, how much sleep do you think the average college student ages 17 to 24 needs every night? Kind of think, how much sleep do you need to really function well the next day, And most people would say somewhere probably around 7 hours or so. The average is actually 9 hours, 15 minutes, according to Dr. James Moss, who has a video on this. So pretty interesting. How do you test that? Not everybody needs 9 hours, 15 minutes. In fact, some studies say college students need somewhere between, 8.5 hours around there, maybe 8 to 9 hours. But it does vary by person. And the good test of that is if you're yawning before 5 o'clock at night, you didn't get enough sleep, period. Now, if you have a night class and you're waking up earlier, if you don't have early morning classes, so you're waking up at 10 in the morning or something like that, that's probably 7 o'clock at night if you're yawning before then or something like that. Consequence of not getting enough sleep is essentially this. Your brain consumes about 40% of all the energy that your body uses, a tremendous amount of energy. And the result of that is it generates a lot of waste. In other parts of the body, we have the lymphatic system that removes waste from the cells. It's basically kind of like your circulatory system, but it's just a completely different system. And basically all that waste gets out of your body on a kind of continual basis. But the brain does not have the lymphatic system. So what happens at night, basically when you're sleeping, spaces open up in between the cells of your brain, and the fluid that surrounds your brain washes through your brain. And this happens several times during the night. And as it washes through, it removes those toxins. If you don't get enough sleep, you still have all those toxins. So basically, yeah, you have brain fog. You kind of feel like you have brain fog, but literally you also have brain fog because you have a lot of toxins, waste products surrounding your brain and interfering with your brain's function. So why get sleep? Well, from a learning standpoint, it's very important to get information into your short-term memory. Hey, you're watching this video, you're listening to this, you're reading the slides. All of those are how you perceive things. And that, if you think to yourself, this is important, it's likely to get into your hippocampus, which is where your short-term memory is. Especially if you have the intent to say, I want to remember this, and you say, this is important, it deserves paying attention to. Yeah, but once it's in short-term memory, it starts fading. Your short-term memory starts fading instantly, and over a 36-hour period, it basically fades away, all right? So what you need to do to move things from short-term memory into long-term memory is to get sleep. So basically the process of getting a good night's sleep consolidates memories. It moves many of those memories in short-term into long-term memory. That's why it's so critical, not to just have sleep before you learn, but also have to have a good night's sleep after you learn. And what's interesting, some very recent studies have basically said, it might be a good idea to take a nap. Maybe 20 or 30 minutes is all you need, after you learn, and that could actually improve the learning process. All right, let's kind of see if those studies kind of pan out over time, because for some people, taking naps is a good idea. For other people, it's probably not a good idea. So you kind of have to judge this yourself. And also, if you're going to take naps, no longer than 20 or 30 minutes. Studies have shown that's really kind of the optimal for you. The next thing you want to do is strengthen your long-term memories, and we'll go over how to do that. All right. And how do we do that? Well, there's two key aspects of this, and they kind of relate to each other. One principle is called spaced interval learning, and the other is called retrieval practice. All right. So what's retrieval practice? It's basically coming back to things over and over time by recalling them out of memory. But spaced interval learning is where you basically space out your learning and you repeat things. So for example, if you learn something on day one and you never come back to it, you're going to forget most of that. Probably 80% or more you're going to forget. But if you come back to it after a period of time, usually a day or two later, right, and you repeat the studying that you did, or as we'll see, retrieving it out of memory, even more important, then what's going to happen is you boost your long-term memory. You're strengthening those neural connections. And although your memory still starts to fade, it doesn't fade as much. And then if you come back to it later, and maybe that's a few days later, all right, then it strengthens it again. And then if you do it again, it strengthens it. And this is kind of one of the reasons why, hey, comprehensive exams are probably a pretty good idea at the end of a course, because you have to retrieve a lot of things out of memory, and why quizzes during the day after you study, might be a good idea to basically go over, or going over things in class after you've already read them. All of those things basically repeat your learning process in some fashion. The other big thing is retrieval practice. All right, you retrieve, basically asking questions and getting you to retrieve things out of memory really strengthens your neural connections, a lot more so than rereading something. Even if you highlight something and go over the highlights or something like that. But retrieval practice is a much more efficient tool and more effective tool for really strengthening your memories. So best way to do this is probably through flashcards. So you retrieve them you prepare a flashcard, maybe with a picture on it or a drawing or something like that. And then you use those flashcards on a periodic basis, like using spaced interval learning, to basically retrieve the stuff out of memory. And then, of course, you maybe take the flashcards you didn't know something up, set them to the side and the like. So lots of things you can do there. Flashcards is a very powerful learning technique, right? So there are other ways of using retrieval practice, reviewing past papers that we did, practice tests, perhaps while you're done reading, quizzes during class, which is one of the reasons we do quizzes during this class, multiple choice tests, yeah, to some degree, essay answers, very powerful, because basically to study and to be able to write down a concept, to explain a concept, and to apply it to a factual situation generally requires a much higher level of knowledge than a multiple choice test. It just generally test recognition for the most part. So one of the things we do in this class is on the exams, you will see essay questions. Answering a spoken question, so I ask a question in class, you answer it, that's something that basically is a form of retrieval practice. And then flashcards and making your own questions and answering, and having somebody else answer you 3 questions about a topic. So basically, how do we apply this in this class? Well, first off, we do readings and videos, like this video, and readings done through perusal, right? And as you do this, you really need to do active learning, which means you actively read all the pages. This is one of the ways you score points. But as you read the pages, pause every now and then at the end of a section and say, what did I just learn? kind of just think in your mind, what did I just learn? Make sure that your brain says this is important. Also, you do 4 annotations. Basically, those are comments on the readings. It's a good idea to do 3 or 4 sentences per annotation to get the full points per annotation. And then you're going to read other students' annotations, and you can upvote those. And that's how you score points in perusal. Basically, hopefully get maximum points on all of the perusal assignments. Perusal assignments are done before class, typically the day before, the weekend before classes in this class. And that way you're getting exposed to the material one time. And then during class, we're going to do basically some things that hopefully aren't just a whole bunch of lectures. One of the things I'm going to ask is, what did you learn from the prior class? Write down 3 things, or we'll discuss in class. I'll ask for volunteers 3 things that you learned from the prior class. We're going to have exercises in class where you apply what you've learned to different investment concepts and the like. We're going to actually do Quizlets during class, and I'm going to prepare the Quizlets for you. And after the Quizlets, there'll be a quiz a lot of times. So the Quizlets will hopefully prepare you for the quizzes, but also all the readings that you've done as well. And then at the end of class, I'm going to ask that you write down 3 things that you learn at the end of class and turn it in to me as well. And of course, another way of doing retrieval practice and spaced interval learning is by review sessions for exams. And we'll do some I call it team Jeopardy. It's like Jeopardy. I do it a little bit differently than you might typically have seen. It's a team format with extra credit points. So hopefully everybody will enjoy that when we do it. And hopefully we'll do it several times during the semester. All right, so interleaving is another learning concept, and this really focuses on how you study at night or during the day or something like that. So basically, most of the time, you probably do what's called massed learning or massed presentation. Basically, you take one topic, you study it, and then you study another topic and another topic and another topic. Maybe you do like 2 hours on one class and 2 hours on another class or something like that at night or something like that. What's better is actually to break down the learning by topics, not necessarily by classes, but even breaking them down by topics. So for example, in this class, you might have a couple different what I call class preparation assignments or perusal assignments to do. You might want to look those over and break it down into different topics, and then space those out with other topics from other classes. So, if you have for example, an English class and you're doing some reading there, make that interspaced with, for example, the, an investment topic or something like that. Now, a great way of doing this is to maybe study things for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on your attention span, how that works, and then take a 5-minute break. But you got to make sure you come back at the end of 5 minutes. And the best way of doing that is just, use a stopwatch on your smartphone. All right, 5 minutes. I got a 5-minute break. Do whatever you want to do during that break. Come back, get to studying it again, and the like. All right. So, what's the difference between interleaving and spacing this out? Well, spacing basically spaces things out over different days. So why is that important? Because every time you learn something, you need to get a good night's sleep, put that back in memory, and then come back to it after you got things in long-term memory. Then you can reinforce those memories. After you reinforcement, you get a good night's sleep, it's reinforced. Then you come back to it several days later, and it even reinforces it more. Interleaving is switching between topics within a single learning session. So you need to plan out your learning sessions. And what you'll find is it's a lot more effective in terms of actually remembering stuff. I want to go on to sleep again. Why is sleep so important? Well, it's not just learning. It's also from the standpoint of your health. All right. We know that if you don't get enough sleep, you're likely to have a lot more anxiety in your life, a lot more depression. Your mood is probably going to be poor. Your attitude might be poor. All right. It could lead to sickness because your immune system is suppressed when you don't get enough sleep. It could lead to diabetes, long-term problem there. Number 4, infertility. Oh my gosh. Weight gain. Yeah, a big side effect of not getting enough sleep. Number 6, low libido. Oh no, definitely not. Don't want that while you're a college student. All right, and heart disease even. All right, so a lot of research has basically said this is a problem with not getting enough sleep. And also, uh, it says teens here, it's 9 to 10 hours a day. That is basically from about age 15 or so, all the way up to age 24, is what the research is showing us. As you get more into adult years, after 25 and to 30, years 30 and the like, you basically get back to the 7 to 8 hours of sleep that for most people, again, it varies by person. I also want to point out sleep, a lot of the research has shown that it's not just how much sleep you get, but it's also the consistency of sleep. If you go to bed a lot later and wake up a lot later on the weekends, like you go out and you party or something like that, all right, you basically, your body's ability to adjust back to a normal sleep pattern is only about 15 to 20 minutes a day that it adjusts backward. So it basically maybe take you 4 or 5 days to get back to where you're back to a normal schedule, and then you repeat everything again with another like Thursday night or Friday or Saturday night staying up late. So it's very important to have consistent sleep. If you don't, it leads to something called social jet lag. You actually feel again like brain fog, even though you might have gotten enough sleep, for example, on the weekends. And by sleeping later, you're still not getting effective sleep. It's some of the research has shown that even if you stay up late, you probably should get up at the same time every day. Yeah, so that's interesting. The, some of the more recent research out there. All right, but try to get more consistent sleep if at all possible, in addition to getting enough sleep. All right. I just want to go over it. You're going to have 4 exercises, discussion board assignments this semester to expand your comfort zone. We're going to expand your comfort zone with a different exercise during one of our classes as well. And you can create your own challenges. There's going to be, they're posted on Blackboard and the like. But kind of one of the reasons is, why do this? Why expand your comfort zone?